Hello, everyone. It is Erin with the Spark, the Climb, the Ascendancy. And we are back today for episode number 2, which I'm super excited about. As many of you know, the whole soul of this podcast is to bring conscious conversation into the world. And no criticisms to anybody else. I just want to do things a little bit differently here. And we want to engage amazing humans in amazing conversations, telling their life story, lessons learned, what they're working on, you name it. We're just going to engage in an amazing conversation. And it's not about, the worldly credentials of, who is the individual, what's their education, what do they do, why should you listen to them? You should just listen to this if you want to have an inspired conversation with another great human being and to watch, I think, a great dialogue that shows that we can have respect and honesty and transparency and create space for people to be seen and to step into their highest version of themselves. So today, I have one of my favorite humans. I met Chelsea through OrangeTheory Fitness many, many moons ago. And she's just an incredible human being with an incredible story and does incredible work. When I think of individuals that offer space for health and wellness, I consider them to be light workers because they're helping the human body and to help it be a healthy vessel for the soul that we're housing within that. And so, I just am so honored and so privileged that you would sit down and spend time with me to talk about you and your life journey. And I think just what you've learned, like what are your learnings on this journey we call life, as well as what are the lessons you're learning as a human being. So without further ado, I'm going to let Chelsea talk a little bit about herself, and we're just going to have an engaging conversation that, we don't know where it's going to go, but we're going to be along for the ride and be present for what's going to come up.
I love it. Thank you so much, Erin. Thank you for having me. This is exciting to me. I've only done one other podcast and it was super fun, but it was very structured. And I love just going into this as a conversation with you. So thank you. And thank you for the nice things that you said. I feel really passionate about my space in the world when it comes to health and fitness. And I think that is such a pivotal piece of just overall well-being and emotional well-being. But I will say, I have been in the fitness industry for about 18 years now, and it's been such a beautiful journey, the way that it's unfolded, because for the longest time, it was about appearance and about, fitting into a smaller size of jeans and not necessarily listening to my body, loving my body, or taking care of my body, but just trying to fit the mold that I thought I was supposed to. And I mean, so there's good and bad there because I was taking care of myself, but it was also, in a sense, I was kind of punishing myself by doing what I was doing. And it's taken a lot of work, a lot of back and forth fights with like some body dysmorphia, a lot of negative self-talk to get to where I'm at now. And it's a daily thing. I have to be aware of it daily. But to where I just get to honor my body and like be kind to it and just move, not worry about necessarily the weights or the speed or the calorie burn, but just like thanking my body when I wake up in the morning for waking up again and then doing something to be kind to it. And honestly, lately I've backed off a little bit from being so into fitness, and I go on long walks and hikes and like just appreciate movement. And I think there's something beautiful about that. And my favorite thing in the whole world is watching other people kind of get on the ride with me. So, especially in the gym environment, people come in so scared, so insecure. Everybody, especially when it comes to group fitness, I have so many people in my life outside of the gym that say, well, I need to go and get fit first, and then I'll come join the gym.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, if only you just took 1 hour to be in that environment, you would understand that we're all so different and everybody just wants to feel okay. And to watch people from day one to even 30 days in they walk in a little taller. They're not hiding in the corner. They're making eye contact. They're saying hi to people. It's like, who cares what's happening on the scale? Their personality is changing. You can see self-love. You can see, I don't know, it's the transformation is so much more inside than it is outside. And that's what I love to see. I'm so impressed with athletes. I'm so impressed with super fit people, but I'm more impressed with people who come in scared and leave proud, because that's a really hard thing to do.
No, I think you said something so beautifully there, is that self-love. Like, how do you really love your body in your vessel that's housing your soul, and thank it, like I sometimes take it for granted. And we are, I think as I walk this journey, it becomes hard because you see the kind of the 3D reality, and not to get really esoteric, but like the world. And it's like, okay, yes. And I've been there, like, okay, what do I look like? What's my size? Do I, all the things that we see. And I think there's so much marketing too that like creates like you're supposed to look a certain way versus like, how do you really get healthy? And I was just having this conversation yesterday with somebody you and I both know, and really having that same conversation. It's like, how do you come into like radical acceptance and self love and use that to fuel the reason why you're showing up and moving your body versus like using fear or lack, or I'm not good enough and I'm not or like in that comparisons phase, versus like, okay, what's the highest and best version of me? And what do I need to be doing from a movement perspective to really actualize or realize that versus like comparing myself to, you know, Cindy Crawford. I mean, I can't think of
Yeah.
any like people that nobody was coming off the top of my head right there for a minute. But it was like, we have that like the death of comparison. And it's like there's only one uniquely you. Like, and how do you create, like, I love coming to your classes and being in your energy because I always feel like I'm just enough, you know. um, I showed up at your class this morning, worked out, and I probably wasn't, going crazy, but it was just enough for me to go, you know what, I'm here, I'm honoring myself, I'm moving my body. Is this the best of the best? Absolutely not. But I also am like, you know what? I'm here this morning and I'm doing this work.
Well, and that's your best for the day. And you are enough. Every time you show up, you're enough. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's also, I think, because you've been in the fitness world for a long time, I have too. There is a constant, for me anyway, tell me if you share this, a constant battle of like a little bit of like past shame creeps in when I take rest days. And I have to combat that and be like, no, your body feels tired today. You don't need to go socialize on your day off if you don't want to. Like, it is completely fine not to go pick up a weight. And it doesn't mean that you are starting from square one tomorrow. In fact, you can take a week off and you will be just fine because you've been taking care of your body for so long. It's okay to have some downtime too. But do you feel like a struggle with that? I feel like you're such
Oh,
a confident, beautiful person. And so I
oh,
do wonder if you ever have that.
always. I think the battle or like I said, the journey to like understanding like the who I truly am is a journey every day. And I think breaking the thought patterns that run through my mind that are really counterintuitive. They're actually counterintuitive to who the essence of Aaron is, but it's like, oh, like, why didn't you do that? Or you really should get up, or, and what's the motivation? If I'm getting up to go do it, and I've really made this switch recently, like I'm doing this to honor my body and honor my soul and to move that versus like shaming myself. Like, I think shame for me is like the lowest vibration that exists on our planet, but it runs so deeply through our human collective of like, you're not good enough, or if you don't do this, or, oh my gosh, I need to go and do Orange Theory 6 times a week in order for me to be worthy or to have the body that I think somebody else might like, or what versus even what I would like. It's like, I think the thing I'm really trying to come into, I think on my fitness journey now, is how to bring it into harmony, um, and to use it to I fuel my soul. Because I've been there, I rarely tell most people, but in my late teens, early 20s, I was actually anorexic. And so I dealt with that. And it's still there. I mean, it's still that shadow that shows up of like, okay, the best way to resolve this is just to constrict my food. And like, that's a control mechanism of like, I can control what's coming in and nobody else could control that. If I think of like why that probably even started, for me. And it's like, I've even saying it, it's like, okay, I just own that. That was part of my journey to step into this, and I don't have any shame around it anymore. Like, I think for a long time it was like, keep that skeleton shoved in my closet, because it's so scary for people to think like, oh, she was anorexic when she was 19, 20, 21 years old.
Yeah.
Yep, I absolutely was. And I know I had a lot of lack of self-love, and I derived a lot of my self-worth from my body and my image, and thinking that, being thin, um, was that. And it really wasn't. Um, so it's a battle every day to be in right relationship with everything. I mean, that's the thing we're here for, is we're in relationship. Whether it's you and I on this podcast, we're in relationship right now, but everything is a relationship. My relationship with working out, my relationship with food, my relationship with water, whatever, like it is, it's always a relationship. Am I giving and receiving to that, or am I like taking and using it to make myself feel better? So that's like the real intense journey I'm on. It's not like, okay, let's lose 5 pounds, or I want to go run a marathon. It's like, how do I harmonize this relationship that really just I'm in service to it and it's in service to me.
I love that. Can I ask you, how long did you keep that a secret?
I kept that a secret, honestly. I let it out here and there. But honestly, I've probably kept that a secret for 20 years. And then,
Wow.
I think you just have to stand in and own it, because then you also have, I think, generational patterns, not to, again, like this is a very esoteric discussion, but that also play out. And I watch that now with my 16-year-old daughter on a little bit different, spectrum, but working through that with her, where it's like, again, like, how do we kind of break the, how would I describe it? The relationship with our body being the self-image, and tying that to our worth. And how do you come into complete love and acceptance and have gratitude, for our bodies? And so, it comes back full circle. You think like, okay, I fought it and I moved on. And it's like, oh, now my teenage daughter that's 16, is having some issues. And it's like, okay, like that clearly is a pattern that now she's going to have to break.
Yeah.
And stepping into that radical self-love. I mean, that is, I think, the hardest thing, because I think our society also doesn't perpetuate that in the least amount. We're always predicating on people's fears. Like, you're not good enough. You don't look right. You're not this. You're not that. Like, whether it's the beauty
Absolutely.
industry, take this, it's instantaneous results. You're not good enough. Do this. Like, I mean, I could go on and on and on. And it's like, how do we break that and get people to see their self-worth and come into a good relationship with health and wellness, where it's here to make you live for a long, I mean, really, we were supposed to live for a long, long, long time, not just 70, 80, 90, even 100 years, even longer than that. So it's like, how do we come into right relationship with that? Because I think there's even more longevity to our lives to be had as a result of that.
Yeah, I love that. And I was asking how long you kept that a secret, because I think that there's something so powerful about finally expressing something that you've carried so much shame about, because it truly takes away almost all of the power that it has over you. And I don't know if you ever kind of fell back into old patterns with that, or if you were able to overcome it and just stay away from the eating disordered behavior. But for me, I'm in recovery, I'm an addict, and I kept that a secret for so long. And it was very easy for me to fall back into it over and over and over again, because nobody was looking out for me, because I didn't want anybody to. I kind of kept a back door open by keeping it a secret. There was so much shame. There's such a stigma about addicts. I had so many reasons not to voice what was going on with me. But at the end of the day, I just didn't want to be held accountable. And I wanted that secret just to be mine. And I feel that now that I'm open about it, I mean, I'm still not perfect. I still struggle, but people know, and people know when I'm not okay, how to support me, whether it's whatever it is. No one can save me, only I can. But like my closest friends and my family, they now know. And so there's a constant real conversation and check-ins around it. And to me, that's going to save my life. Holding that secret for like 15 years was the most painful thing I've ever done. And now it's out there. And it was so exhausting. I remember one of my old friends, in fact, my old boss, when I was going on the other podcast, he pulled me aside for a second and he said, just tell the truth so you don't have so much to remember. And there was nothing more true than that, because I had so many stories in so many places, and it was exhausting. Like all my time was spent trying to remember who knew what, because maybe there was one person in my life that knew the whole truth. I gave all my closest friends a large portion of the truth, but not everything. I gave people in more of my professional industry about half of the truth. Like there's just so many different tiers of the level of honesty I had with people. And him saying that was like the biggest, most freeing thing ever. Because again, he was my boss at the time. Me being completely honest about who I was could affect him. And he was like, I care more about you than anything else. Like, quit tiring yourself out and just be honest. And I kind of was forced into a situation where that was the only option. And it's been exhausting ever since. I wish I could say that it just changed my world. It's been really hard. It's been really hard to be constantly honest and have all of these big, real conversations. But at the same time, I wouldn't want it the other way again. I don't want to pretend anymore. It's so exhausting.
It is exhausting. And I think there's that saying that the truth will set you free, but it's also that realization of the only person's validation we're really here for is our own. And I think as I continue to walk this journey, it's how do I become radically like accepting of myself? Nobody else external to me is validating me. Only I can do that. Only I can love myself enough. And whatever anybody is giving me back in the realm of love is really a reflection of my own internal state of affairs. And so when you start to, I think, come into that radical acceptance, like just that disrobing. And I think even in society today, we have so much judgment and we keep so much in. and so much shame because we're either afraid of being canceled. What if somebody else knows this? Or what if they think this? Then guess what? If they don't align and don't just love you because you have to love that in you, then they're not meant to be in your orbit. And you just have to keep walking down the path because the people that are going to do all that loving, and as you walk that path and you grow your self-love, those people are going to start showing up that reflect that back in you. And that's what I've really noticed on mine is the more I increase that, I watch the people around me and the support that I have grow because I'm growing it really from within myself.
That is so true. I feel like that's a beautiful, I was reflecting as you were saying that because this last year has probably been, well, it's definitely been the hardest year of my life. I um, got a divorce and he got the house. So I was, kind of just couch surfing for a while. I feel like I lost everything. And so I really had no self-love or self-worth. And the people I was inviting into my life absolutely demonstrated that. I had some really honestly scary, toxic people in my life, but it felt safe, for lack of a better word. They were
Mhm.
unsafe people and it felt really comfortable. And I think it's because that was the amount of self-love I had. It was so small that if anybody just gave me a tiny glimpse of love and then followed by hate, anger, pain, it felt good because that's on the inside what I was doing to myself. So it was really familiar and I wasn't seeing it in it. It kept being like, I don't think I ever felt as though I were a victim of my situation, but it kept being like, what do I keep doing? I couldn't figure it out. Like, how do I keep ending up in these very toxic situations? Like, I'm doing it again, and I was like watching it from outside of myself, being like, what are you doing? What you're here again? What's going on? But hearing you say that, it's because there was so little love towards myself that of course I would find people that I guess like confirmation bias, they proved that my self-love was right. That the
Yep.
amount of love I had for me was correct because that's the amount of love they had for me.
Yep.
And
And then
that's
you
just,
have your higher self that's trying to raise you up. And you're
yeah,
like, that's where it's like, okay, get this. And then it's like, why am I repeating this?
yeah,
And I do the same thing. I mean, you're not like we as humans, if we got radically honest with ourselves, are doing that. It's like a repeat cycle, but the universe is gifting it to you to come back to go, did you learn the lesson yet? Oh,
yeah,
okay. Here's another they say they'll send the same person back, but it's essentially the same energy. And so then you get like the same repeat until you go, no, I'm breaking that cycle. Like I'm not repeating that. Like I'm
yeah,
not doing that again. And it's very easy to do because the universe wants you to level up and move on to the next. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to stop giving you lessons because we're here to grow. Like we're always going to be faced with our next level up. But I had to kind of that big epiphany yesterday. I have a lot of epiphanies pretty much every day in my
love that.
world. I'm like, oh, like radical, like punch in the gut. It was like, wow, yeah. Okay, I need to look at like why repeat that cycle. Like if I got really honest, instead of kind of being victimized by it or what's the story I'm running to make myself feel better about it or externalizing it about somebody else versus like what's going on internally that you keep running this over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same play and you never get a touchdown, but you just
Nope.
keep running it. Like this time I know I'm going to tweak something and it's going to be success.
Yep.
It hasn't worked out.
And you're like, nope. Oh, let's try that again. Oh, I'm going to
Yeah.
drop the same play and we're
Yeah.
going to do that again. And so it's like, what? Like, why am I doing that? And I think it's so like this is just the world is so amazing because it's the most perfect like feedback loop for ourselves of how to really grow ourselves if we really tune in.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. I love that. I love your mind. Can I ask you what made you want to dig so deep into this journey?
I just know that I just remember in my journey waking up in a marriage. I was very detached, completely unhappy, and not because of his doing, just because I was not in a line. I was not connected to myself. And I remember waking up going, this is not it. Like, we did not come here for this. Like, we did not come here for that. Like, this cannot be it. Like, and kind of having that innate knowing that there's something more to this than what we have perceived. And I think the programs that we run and the habits that we fall into. And so I just dedicated, I always kind of had these sparks here and there. If I really look back in my life of like what really intrigued me, or, I think we always get the intuitive hits, but we don't always know why or what that's for.
Yeah.
But I've just dedicated myself to becoming, I think, a lifelong learner of like, how do you step into a higher degree of consciousness? Like, I feel, we're ascending and rising as a planet. We're moving. Like, why does everything feel really crunchy, or where is this going, or what's going to happen? I mean, we see it all externalized around us.
Yeah.
But I've just dedicated myself to how do we step into just constant evolution into a higher degree of, I don't like the word enlightenment, but like, how do we just continuously activate ourselves even at 1% to the next level? How do I go from shame into anger, into radical self-love? Like, how do we move that? And I just know that if we spend our time there, that's where the evolution and the change on the planet we want to have is going to occur. And so I just am called here to actualize myself at the highest level. And then I just want to be that space to help other people really find that, because we are magical, amazing. Like, we are probably the most amazing creature created ever. And not to discount like every other amazing animal, because I love animals and I love all of that. But where I really feel like we as human beings don't even know a tenth of what we are capable of, because we're so magical and we're so powerful. And we're meant to embody that and activate that and step into that. Step into, like, I have a knowingness. It's like, do you have a knowingness for a reason? Like, that's a gift. That's a gift from source to you. I always talk about like, we're all here to be Harry Potters. We're not here to be muggles. We're not here. We're here to be crazy weird with all of our crazy gifts, like, where it's like we discount ourselves so much because of how the world is constructed to keep us out of alignment. When I think of like, what are we here to really fight for? It's the divinity of who we are as human beings. I mean, our DNA within our body spells God eternal within the body. If you unhelixed it, use the elements that created on the periodic table in all ancient languages, it tells us God is eternal within this body, which means we are gods. We are gods, and we have powers that we don't even know to activate. And I think our society is trying to disconnect us from that innate intelligence of our divinity to keep us in fear, and we see it everywhere. Like, you're in the health and wellness space. And I mean, everywhere you see banking, you name it, it's all fear. It's all fear-based. And it's like, how do we make the shift? Because I know that what's on the other side of this is nothing short of just amazingness. Like, I don't even know the words I would use to activate it, but just pure love, like heaven on earth, for a lack of better words. But I think people can quantify that. Like, if we really activated this through self-love, through self-acceptance, and knowing we have all these insanely incredible gifts to offer the world, each one of us. Like, the best thing I heard is like, the PowerPoint isn't like that we're unique. The power is we're just like everybody else. But it's like, can all of us remember? For me, it's a remembering. It's a remembering of who I am, of who God put here, and to be that vessel for him to work through, to do this work, to activate a conversation. And that's where I think every human being is magical. There's no credentials that make somebody more worthy than somebody else. It's the essence of who you are, and how do you start to find that and express that into the world.
Oh, I love that. You're wonderful.
So I'm like, that's this weird calling I'm on. I just show up, I'm here to facilitate these conversations, because I think that we have to have the power is in us. We have all the power. It doesn't lie outside of us or with anybody else. And it's like, how do you activate that and bring that to the surface? Because it's so magical. And I think the other thing I really have had the thought about is like, we're all, perfectly right where we are, like, is suspending that judgment. Like, your journey was so unique and perfect to you, like, to help other people access that. And it's hard to sometimes go, you know what? I was an anorexic for 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody else, I was like, if you saw me, you would have thought I was an Auschwitz survivor.
Oh.
Because it maybe, but pretty bad. Like, and I
Yeah.
look back at pictures and I was so pale. I was like, good God, Erin, you were so unhealthy looking. Like, why did you think that was attractive? That's a very humanness of like but it was like, wow, okay. Like, just coming into that complete ownership and acceptance and being able to voice that. And I think, that's why you were gifted sometimes the suffer, what you've gone through, to help other people be that light, to go, you can make it through this too. Like, there is light on the other side of this.
I so agree with that. And there's been more times than I would love to admit where I have just almost thrown in the towel and just wanted to give up and been like, you know what? I'm going to be one of the statistics. I'm not going to make it out of this. This is too hard. I don't even want to fight anymore. And then I can always see a bigger picture. Like, in the darkest moments of my life, I can see something in the future where I don't know what it looks like necessarily, but I am filled, I'm like surrounded by so many humans, and I am sharing my truth, and I am standing there saying, you are me, I am you, and you
Yeah.
can do this too. And I know that I have to keep fighting, because I'm going to change the world, and I don't know how yet, but I feel that I have chills because I
Oh,
do.
I got chills there too. I'm like up my legs. And I'm like, the good news is you don't even know, you have to know how. Like, you
Yeah.
just are the available vessel for God's source of divine, however people identify that, to work through.
Yeah.
And you were a powerful AF, like, you are powerful. Like, when I think of, like, as I go on this journey, it's like, who do I surround like other powerful people that are activating and moving in the same way. And we all have struggles. Like,
Oh, yeah.
we all have the challenges. And so, like, you are one powerful badass.
So are you. I
And
think
you
that's why we're drawn to each other.
and you are, because you become magnets, because you start to surround yourself, like what we talked about earlier, of people that are a reflection of you, and you, that feels comfortable. Like, when I think of my circles as I've grown, they've become smaller and smaller and smaller, because I know that, not out of judgment, like, it just changes, your energy shifts, you go within more, you're more content with who you are. Being with yourself is a very peaceful, amazing process. Like, you're never lonely. Like, I never feel I'm lacking. And then when I'm around people, it's like, I have called in people that are as powerful or if not more powerful than me, that are drawing me to continue to rise and step up, because that's what I've asked for. It's like I want the people that are going to continuously help me ascend to that next level, and looking internally to go, okay, how do I step up? Like, how do I, and what's that pattern I need to break within myself to go to that next level?
Yes.
And
Well, and I
it's
think it's so powerful to have people like each other and people like you're explaining in our corners, because we have so many blind spots with ourselves. I do know when I'm stuck, and I know something's going on, but I can't see it half the time. It's like, why am I on the hamster wheel? Like I feel as though I'm checking off the boxes. I'm doing, my morning routine. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Why am I still stuck on this? I can't get off. But when I have a beautiful, honest, open friend near me, they can usually see. And I haven't always been open to it. Sometimes it's really hard to hear what you're missing or what you're lacking or what you keep repeating that's not serving you. But I feel much more open to it now, and I'm with you. I mean, I used to be the party girl for sure, but the person with 200 friends, and it was great, but I didn't have a best friend. I have about 4 people that I truly call family/friends, and that is fine with me, and I spend a lot of time alone. In fact, I recently, one of my very good friends that I've known for a while kinda asked me out, and I just said, I've so confidently, for the first time ever, said, I need you to know I'm completely content alone. I don't need anybody that's going to take anything from me, only add. And I never want to take from anybody, only add. And I think I'm still on a journey to figure out how to be my best self. So I'll see you in a year. If you're still around, I'll see you. We can try it then. But yeah, I'm fine with the lonely nights, because there still are some. I was with the same person for 8 years, and so there's still some really quiet nights that I get to figure out, but I used to fill those with drugs, alcohol, sex.
Yep.
And
Nope.
now and you know what? I don't always do the right thing. Sometimes I eat 10 things of candy and watch
That
Netflix.
sounds amazing. No judgments here. But I think sometimes it's like, okay, what feeling into that. And I think that's the humanness of our journey here, of like really owning that. And that's the other thing I've really found as I've stepped into this is that people are going through similar things. And so to not talk about it because it's like we're ashamed, or gosh, I don't know why I'm feeling this way, or I can get like, oh, you shouldn't feel this way, better than this, like just work through this in your head. And it's like really owning that and stepping into know the real humanness of like, I haven't gotten this figured out, and talking to somebody else that's like, oh, to what you said earlier, that just is like, it just helps you along the way. We're here to walk each other home. If there only needed to be one of us here that had all the answer, well, there wouldn't be 8 billion of us on the planet. We would all be, we all have something different to offer and a different way to look at it. And so I think the other thing too, I've really started to lean into is like just opening up and having the conversations of how I'm feeling, because those are, I think, our bodies, they're our GPS. Emotions are not bad. Like we attach good, bad, right, wrong to them, but it's like they're not bad. They're just a way for us to navigate this world. And so leaning in and being like, I'm feeling this way, and having somebody else going, oh, like I'm kind of having that same thing, or have you thought about, like, it just shifts everything. So I think too, just becoming an open book, and not like in a weird way,
Yeah.
but I think what you said, like where it's like you can just be your authentic self. Like there is nothing more, I think, attractive than people that just are who they are and know who they are. And quite honestly, are so detached from the outcome that's going to come from that beingness. They just are. who that is. And I think, you were talking earlier, because dating's one of those things for me that we could probably have 25 podcasts trying to figure out Erin's dating issues or relationship issues.
I'll start it for you.
Yeah. Okay, great. But I think you hit on something that it's like, how do you become so in love with yourself, but also completely detached? Like, it's this we're always in this weird paradox, that's like, that we're like working against, where it's like up is down and down is, and you're like, what? Yeah, yeah. Like, where it's always like that Jedi mind trick of like the Yoda sayings in Star Wars, where you're like, yes and no, like where you're like, that, I think that makes sense. Oh, yeah, that makes sense when you kind of really think about it. So it's
Yeah.
like, we're always in that bind bender a little bit of like, okay, how do I like attract? But it's like being completely detached and being completely magnetic, like who you are, and whoever at whatever time comes in and is all going to resolve itself.
Yeah.
And we
I know
don't really need to effort.
it's tricky though, don't you think? Like exactly like you were saying, it is the same thing as up is down, because you want to be so okay alone and in love with yourself. And that can very much, if you let it, that can create calluses
Yep.
and a hardness, because you find so much peace within yourself. You don't need anything else. But
Yeah.
it's also like there is a part of me that's like, I don't ever want to need anybody again, but I do want to be open, you know?
Well, I think there's also this transcendent that's kind of occurring on our planet too, kind of holistically, because you're just describing exactly what I am like looking for. I think of a couple other girlfriends that are single, is like, how do you start to hearken in that holy relationship, that one of two whole beings that are vibing together and providing that support? We are here to walk each other home. Like, I
Mhm.
want that person to go home to, that gives me a hug, but because we just balance each other out, not because I need something from them or am looking for some type of validation from them, where it's just like this harmonization with this other human, where they're whole and complete. They can go off and do all the things that they love to do. Maybe we have some
Yeah.
things together that we love to do, and then I get to go off and be Erin and do all the things I love to do. So it's like, I think there is that. I think we're trying to also rebalance, I think, in our relationships, and why so many have ended, because there's a calling up to a different type of relationship I think we as human beings are supposed to have in a romantic setting,
Yeah.
of more harmonization. Because if you really think of our societal constructs around marriage or relationship, it is not any of that.
No.
And then I'll get caught in like, oh, here's how it's like, how about we learn how to just be, and I could be with this other person, and we both are magical, and we both hold space, and we counterbalance each other in that masculine and feminine energy that
Yeah.
we both have. But one, I'm more feminine than I am masculine. But, like we're in this dance of rebalancing that. And I think calling in a new way of what relationships are supposed to look like, because I don't think we've had great examples. And so
No.
it like feels very foreign. It's like, what? I think this, but it's like my soul knows. So
Yeah.
I have to kind of trust that that's where it's going.
Oh, I agree so much. I agree. And I think for me, I mean, my divorce is new, and so I think it's fine that I still have some fears that I'm working through. But for me, it's like I also have this, I don't know if fear is the right way to explain it, but I have something in me where every time that I elevate and every time that I mean, I've been like in therapy and doing anything I can to better myself since I was like 14. So I'm constantly working on myself, and then I constantly fall back. So it's just a thing. But I think every year I get a tiny bit higher on like self-realization and self-love. And as I do that, I notice my relationships, the partner stays the same. And it's really hard to spiritually or emotionally outgrow something so I have this fear that because I am going to keep growing, I never
Mhm.
want to stay still. And I have this fear that I'm just going to keep growing and growing, and I'm just going to outgrow all the potential people in my life. I don't know. So I just
I
go so back and forth.
I think that's so spot on. Because I read that you said something. This is where the universe is just too perfect to really fuck it up, everybody. Like you're like you just said something I was reading earlier about kind of the energies of the divine feminine and divine masculine. And I think how do we rebalance that? We're like, I think there are men that are stepping into that will be that energetic match for our growth, because we should be reflecting to them that same thing, and they should be reflecting that back to us. Like, so it's like I hold out, I shouldn't say this, but this is very human in 3D. But I hold out a lot of hope. Like I know that there are men out there that are the perfect energetic match, that are very focused on their growth, that are on the same trajectory. And I think the thing I'm learning is I have to surrender and let go of like who they are and when are they going to show up, because
Mm,
I've asked for the universe to deliver it, and so now I have to be an allowance for it to come. And I think you're also going to get maybe some of the past lessons too in there of like, oh yeah, that's not it.
yeah.
Um, so I think for me, it's like, am I in tuned enough to recognize it? I think my fear is, am I going to be in tune enough to recognize it when it arrives and to not run, I think, old patterns over the top of it,
Oh,
because I'm still thinking like there's something else there. So I think the biggest learning for me currently, as I navigate kind of, singleness and dating. And, I've been divorced but again, time is of an illusion. I think it's, again, what's the trajectory of your growth?
yeah.
And everybody has taught me a lesson. So I think the other thing I've really had to learn is like, I'm grateful for every person that's helped grow me. And hopefully I'm offering the same thing in return, but I'm just wired a lot like you. Like I'm very introspective. What is the lesson in this for me? Was that Aaron 5, 6 years ago? Hell no. It was everybody else's problem. Aaron wanted to make it everybody else's problem. It was what somebody else was doing to me, and
Yep.
not really learning like the gift that they were giving me was a reflection of something that I could like heal within myself to really grow myself, versus
Yeah.
like they were causing me discomfort and all this chaos. And it's like, well, really, I was creating the discomfort and the chaos. Not
Absolutely.
them. So, but I think that's a great point, and it's hard. And I watch it with, like I said, my single girlfriends. It's, we talk about it and it's like, am I crazy? And it's like, no, we are calling in the next level guy. And those next level guys are out there,
Yeah.
because we kind of graduated, we've moved up. So it's like, yeah, the old patterns aren't going to work in relationships as we grow and evolve.
Yes. Oh, I so agree. I love your brain.
Oh, thanks. I love share. I just feel like I'm a vet. Like this is like my own learnings. Like for me, it's just, this is what I've learned and how do I articulate and turn that back? Because I think sometimes on this journey, it can get a little, well, I listen to a lot of stuff and sometimes I'm like, this is like flying over my head. Like, and it's like, there's a very simple way to really understand it.
Yeah.
And I like to be that translator of like, this is how this really applies. And it's work every day. Like it is literally a showing up, showing up, and taking everything as a blessing, like as it's gifted to me to grow me. And
Yeah.
so that's how I think I've really been able to, I think, just move the needle is looking at everything as a lesson and every person as a gift on my journey, and they're helping me elevate and grow. And so you're one of those many people. I have a feeling our circle and our paths and our all the things are
Yes.
meant to be activated and crossed. And you know, that's how it works. I mean, I think that's just how it works. I think, people come into your life and we're here to grow each other. And so this is probably not the last time Chelsea and I will talk. It'll probably be, and whatever you guys want back is popular demand.
Yes.
Conversation, say, hey, we want to have Chelsea back on, or we want to have Michelle back on, or whomever. Because for me, I think it's just these are the dialogues people, I think, are having or need to have, and to know that this is normal, I think
That's what I love about this, as I just want everybody to know that they're not alone, because all the things that we're going through, I think mental health is such a hard thing right now. Luckily, we talk about it a little bit more, but going through depression, anxiety, struggling with PTSD, those thoughts that you don't really dare talk about. If we just start talking about them, as I said, it takes away some of the power, but also it completely normalizes it. And there's nothing more lonely than thinking that you're the only one in the world feeling the way that you feel. Um, I I just think my favorite conversations, I'm not a surface conversation person anymore. And I always say it, and it sounds so catty, and it's not even true. I always say, I don't have time for that. I have so much time. I have so much time here. I have time for anything.
No, I'm
But
the same way. But when I even think back to even what you were talking about earlier, it's almost like that's even in the dating, the depth of the conversation has to be there. It's so that to me is where the connection occurs. It's not the
yes,
other stuff. It's the engagement of our energies. That's the magic. That's the magnetism. That's where it's oh, we could talk about, I mean, whatever. I mean, I could probably talk about a lot of different things, where it's oh, this is so deep. This is how this works. And how do you create space for people to unveil themselves? I think even this is what an intimate relationship should look like, where you can open your soul, you can share what's on your heart, and completely disrobe, and that
yeah,
there's no judgment. When
yep,
I think of the most impactful conversations I have or that I love, it's where I know the space that's being held is of no, it's just complete love. There's no
yep,
judgment. It just, you get to be who you are. You get to say everything. You get to be vulnerable. You get to, just unveil. We are meant to be naked,
yep,
and not, we are meant to be that naked in our humanness of this is just who I am, and love me or leave me, but this is who I am. And we need a lot more than that. And I think we all have big callings on this earth, because I think we all see stuff that needs to change
mhm,
to help with, I think, the wellness of the soul. My mom's you always say that we have soul work to do. And it's it really is the soul
oh
work. Our
yeah,
soul is unwell. We have souls individually and we have a collective soul. And it's there's a lot of soul work to be done to make ourselves well. And one
yeah,
of those many things is just radical self-love, loving who you are and stepping into that and being unapologetic and unafraid. Really, you have to step across that line of being afraid of what anybody else thinks
yep,
of that, and being okay with that. And I love even what your boss had shared, in your earlier conversation, just
yeah,
be you and speak your truth.
yes,
That's freedom. When we think of
it,
why do we feel oppressed? Because we're not free. Freedom comes in our expression of our truest selves. You
yeah,
know, if we feel oppressed or something, yeah, it's not free. Free is being exactly who we're meant to be.
I agree so much.
The muggles and shamans and whatever all we are, like all the things, the Harry Potters, like all of it. Like
I want to
that's
be the Harry Potter. You be a
okay,
Shin, I'll be
good.
Harry Potter.
Okay, good. Well, I feel very called to activating that within people because we are meant to be very gifted and to be tapped in and to be that magical. I think, we can. And there's so many stories out there of that, and it's like, what if we all activated that? Like, holy shit world, watch out.
Yeah,
Like we would become like the Avengers.
absolutely. I love that.
So it's like all those movies are good metaphors of like what could really happen if we truly stepped into the natural powers we have as human beings.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you're coming along to Hogwarts to run the place, okay?
Yep. I will. I will.
Get
Well, I
ready,
really
girl.
thank you for what you're doing, because like someone like me, I'm always trying to better myself. I'm always trying to have the conversation, but I don't always know where to start. And like you said, you're doing all this research, you're listening to all this stuff, you're reading all this stuff, and sometimes it even goes over your head. But I think that you are profound in the fact that you do understand things in a way that I haven't seen in a lot of humans. And so the fact that you are coming on here, you're sharing your story, you're sharing other people's stories, and then you're translating in a way that, someone like me who isn't quite as deep in it as you, I can hear it and I can take it. So you're doing a service and a job that needs to be done, and it's really powerful. So thank you so much. And thanks for this conversation. Like,
Oh,
truly, if like this was a first date, it would be beautiful.
I know.
Right?
Let's
Like,
date
this is
each
how
other.
it
I
should
love
go.
it.
Let's
This
date
is
each other.
exactly it. I love it. Hey, and if anybody's looking like to date either one of us, this is the type of conversation we want to have.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the weather, okay?
No, no, but you said it. I mean, thank you. Thank you. Like my soul honors your soul. And I just am here to activate. Like I just am really trying to stay out of my own way. I'm really here to just bring the highest and best out of every human being and to be that conduit. And it really is a privilege. I mean, I don't know where this is going. I don't even quite know what I'm doing. I'm just like, let's show up and let's just start showing up. This is probably not perfectly recorded, all the things, but I'm just like, you know what? There's a point where you just have to step in and do it.
Yeah.
And you kind of got to break all the rules because it's like, who are setting those rules, and I don't know. We'll see. We're going to see where all this transpires and goes. I'm just along for the ride.
I'm
But
excited.
what an honor and thank you for reflecting that back to me. That's so like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like just,
You're
I have
welcome.
gratitude for that. So I
Oh,
think there's going to be a lot to come from both you and I want to continue to just, I think, bring light into the world and activate people and know that every human is worthy. I think we've kind of also created this, spectacle of like, this person's on a pedestal or this person's,
yep.
and it's like, you know what, we're all
We're all the same.
superstars.
Yep.
Yep. We're all the superstars. We all need to find that essence within ourselves and shine that into the world. And that's really my goal, is to help all these lights activate and shine. So
Well,
much
you're
more
doing
to come.
it. You're doing big things already.
Ah, well, you just made my heart very happy. Thank you. The ego self of Erin loves the validation, but it just feels like when you're in alignment, things just are easy.
Yeah.
And you don't feel like, one of the things I'm working on my shamanic training and just stepping into that. I've always felt very called to that. And, one of the things as a shaman, which for me, just I think is an ancient representation, I think, of being really in tune. And you're just to be the hollow bone, you're here to just be a vessel for source to work through.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really the journey I'm embarking on is like, how am I just an available vessel for source and to use that to be a reflection for other human beings so that they can do the same.
Yes.
So,
Oh, that's so exciting.
yes, and I
Let's
have some other weird
get
magical
together.
things at some point I'll talk about that people will be like, whoa, but
Oh,
it
I want
really
to
is.
hear all about it.
Yeah, so there's lots more to uncover, which is fun. Like, but we're all energy. So what's the work we need to do is with our souls. And
Mhm.
when you really start to think in, how does time, all of it work? Like it's like everything's happening all at once, all at the same time. Like there is nothing more than the present moment than right now, even though we want to think we're on linear timelines and stuff like that. But it's magical. When I think of the universe, like it is so divinely and perfectly organized. It's like you actually can't really screw it up. Like
I
the
love
only thing that's occurring is a rebalancing of like, here's your lesson. And are you going to come back into balance within the universe? I mean, when we think of like stuff we've gone through, it's just a perfect rebalancing of ourselves. Like, nope, this is your higher version of you. And when it feels like crunchy or you're like, huh, it's like because you're not in that state.
Yes.
And so the universe is going to give you that gift to get you to come back to that state of balance. So it's never, you know, there's nothing bad ever happening. It's just trying to rebalance itself back to the state of perfection by which it was designed, which is really just being love.
Yeah.
And love means complete acceptance. So there's when you're like, oh, it's like, well, because I wasn't acting very loving there. So I'm getting that lesson right now. And it feels really weird because I wasn't acting the way I know I'm supposed to be. Like, that's all that's happening. And we take it like but it's like, it's just this constant like feedback mechanism for us. And like, I think as I go on this journey, I start to learn that. And the less it does start to, doesn't mean there's not stuff that comes up, but you just start to see it differently and it
Yep.
starts to even itself out and it doesn't feel like such the extreme peaks and
Yes.
valleys. And there can be that state because you're bringing yourself into harmony
Yes.
with natural law of just like this is the way we operate, just like gravity operates on us. There's other laws intrinsic to who we are, and when we're in harmony with those, is very easy.
Yes. Oh, I so agree. And like you're saying, I mean, life is life and life's going to happen. And, for lack of a better word, bad things are going to happen. And it just, I have had so many experiences, probably in this last year, where 100% it depends on where I am emotionally, spiritually, and where my mind is as to how I respond to some of the most severe situations and some of the smallest situations. And I can so easily come into it in this very negative, why me? Let it ruin a whole day, maybe even a whole week sort of situation. But then if I work on myself and I'm in a different headspace and I'm like one with myself, something pretty rough can happen. And I think it.
Mhm.
Sometimes I even laugh. Like when certain things happen, I'm like, this is hilarious and it's gonna be a fun story to tell. It maybe 2 days ago when I was in a crap place, this would be the worst thing ever and I would hate my life. But like to be able to laugh at some of the like crappy things that happen in life and to be able to just have something bad as can happen, like you get rear-ended or you're late to work or this or that, and just be like, thank you. Like I needed to have this happen for this reason. Like you can just shift everything and it doesn't take that much work. Like it just takes being inside yourself, feeling love and being appreciative. And then no matter what it is, you appreciate it.
1000%. Like you hit on something that Michelle talked about last week is that minor shift. Like it's small things. Like these aren't big things. Like we're not having, when I look at the trajectory of it's like it's the small minor things that we do day to day that compound and add up to the long-term trajectory. Like there is no like, oh, wow, okay, now I'm like this and everything's
Yeah.
great and fine. we aren't, most of us are not Jesus Christ. Like, so, and not saying we can't get to a state of consciousness like him, but most of us have contracted in here to learn through our lessons. And so there is not just this like magic PowerPoint that's like, I'm never going to have to go through that again. It becomes what's my awareness and how minor, am I going to allow this to work? And to what you said so beautifully is everything is a gift, like I think sometimes when I'm sad or, the inner work I've done is like, where is that coming from? And how do I love that piece of me? Because that's a beautiful part of me that she loves so deeply that she's sad. Like, not like, why are you sad, Erin? Which that can be me on occasion, or why are you angry? But like, okay, why are you angry? Because there's a higher part of you that knows that there's something better for you here, or whatever that is. So rather than judging that, one thing I'm really trying to work on for myself is just loving that part of me. Like, oh, how cool is she? She like,
there you are.
there, yes. Thank you. Because I wouldn't recognize having that shame or judgment keeps her pushed away versus inviting her in and going, oh, thank you for that beautiful gift.
Yes. Oh, I love it, Erin.
So I'm like, we could talk for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. But I can't wait for everybody to check out this episode. And I'm sure we're going to be on. I'll make sure the audience knows how to find you, where do you look you up so that they can be in touch if they, they need you and who you are and have your magic in their lives. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And anybody who ever wants to reach out to me, just know that I need you too.
Okay, awesome. I love that. I love that. Oh, that's so good.